Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That is my man DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. What is up?
I don't know. Apparently, Shane thinks he's surrounded by Cubs fans because we always certainly get their highlights.
Yeah, I mean,
Although they have been the cardiac Cubs here the last couple of.
we don't need that, though.
Got a little fatty finch
We
over
don't.
there by the.
How do you like that?
Can you see that little finchy looking thing? By the,
I would not have been able to identify what kind of bird that was.
I don't know if it's a finch. I just made that up because it's
'Cause
got
it-
a big fat yellow belly
I was like, because
and it's a white, like a white breast and a little mohawk.
is that the are those the things of a finch?
I don't know. It looks finchian.
Is it?
Do we have finch here?
I don't know.
You're like, wow, already it's 7:01.
I know,
Finchian, that's a word. Like purple. What did I say
like
yesterday?
purple drink.
Purpler.
Oh no, more purple.
What did I say purpler yesterday was? Evansville? No.
Evans, I don't remember.
East Carolina? No, they're not playing.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
K-State? Oh, that's right.
Ema?
They're playing.
I don't even recognize.
Yeah, I think that bird looked Finchian.
I'm not. The only birds I can identify
Robins.
are Blue Jays and
You
Cardinals.
grew up around robins. They were all around El Dorado or wherever it is that you grew up.
I grew up in El Dorado. What are you talking about?
It's the only neighborhood I know that's close to Millard North. I just said that. My man Dave Machino.
Like El Dorado.
Yes, Dave Machino used to live in El Dorado. We got him from Hawaii. It was like legendary stories where when he first got there, we were like, oh man, I heard you throw 90. Meanwhile, that dude's like 12 years old. But he did throw hard. He had a bad back.
Like real 12 years old or like a Danny Almonte 12
No,
years old?
he looked well, he didn't look like us. He looked like Shane, closer to Shane. He was regular.
He was regular?
Except he had red hair. He was great. He was like,
so he was pretty tall.
he was the first kid my age that didn't like get into trouble that had a tattoo.
It's like not a thing anymore, but that used to be a thing.
Yeah, and plus you gotta go back to the 80s.
Yeah. Like if it used to be you saw somebody with tattoos, you're like, oh, they're bad news.
Yeah.
I thought, whoa.
Now you just got-
this how good that school that you went to, the blue and silver school.
Yeah.
This how good their staff was. He was pretty good in high school, although he couldn't stay healthy. They're 5.
Yeah. What was that, like 90?
It's like 90, 91, 91. It was Bartles, Shell, McGinn, Bodner, and Machino.
Because they once stayed in 90 or 91
I don't
back in the day.
It's all a blur to me. So Ralston broke into the party, I think, in 90 or 91.
One of those years, Miller North won it.
Because I'm a huge and it's funny, the people that I like now that I didn't like when I was younger, like I didn't like anything about Ralston, but I'm a huge Shockey guy.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's like one of the funniest people I've ever met. There's lots of people like that. I didn't think I was going to like Dan McLaughlin. I love Dan McLaughlin.
Yeah.
I didn't think that just guys like when you're young that are so successful, it's like, oh, I bet they think they're pretty cool. But maybe they really don't. Like
yeah, you make assumptions about people.
Yeah, there's a ton of people like that. I couldn't stand Chattel, and I love the guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just grow up, man.
So
sometimes people beat your head in and they're opposing coaches, and it's okay to like them. And sometimes people write bad things about you, and it's okay for you to like them. It's okay. Hey, what's up, little kid?
Tom Chattel's an interesting one for me because
I know I am old too.
I wanted to be Tom Chattel when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like I would read his columns and stuff in the paper because I loved a newspaper. Like
me too.
To this day, I still kind of love a newspaper. There's just nowhere to like pick one up.
So
I thought you couldn't read.
I can't. I just like to feel the paper.
He likes the ink between his fingers.
Yeah.
So funny. Getting ice yesterday. Because for whatever the reason, our ice maker doesn't work. But I've already told some Finchian stories that aren't relevant. But I don't get the newspaper, but I subscribe digitally. But I want a newspaper. So sometimes I pretend to be in line, and I just I'll flip the papers at the gas stations, and they're so thin.
Yeah.
But I like the headlines because I have some faves, right? Like I think I'm on record. Like I'm a huge Lee Barfnick fan.
Yeah.
He used to make everybody so. It's kind of like Chattel, right? And he used to make everybody so mad, and he never bothered me.
Everybody.
And it's like I did. It didn't really matter what he wrote. I just felt like, man, I'm guaranteed to learn something.
Yeah, mine started because I used to I was a big nerd, obviously.
Okay, that hasn't changed. It's okay.
But I didn't have that much, especially back then. I didn't have access to much sports on TV. There was obviously just less access than we didn't have cable. So I would literally just like pour through box scores, especially during the summer because I was huge baseball nerd.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm just sitting there. Like I remember like I would check every day to see if like Griffey hit a home run, or I'd check every day to see, I would always check. Well, I mean, I'd end up looking at all of them, but I'd look for Griffey first, and then I'd look for like see what Bonds did.
Did you get to the point where you wanted all the pictures to be in color? Sometimes you'd be like, why is this in black and white? This isn't. They only do this on the weekend?
Yeah, I would get frustrated.
You remember that?
It took me a minute to figure out because I was a kid, and so I was like, wait, like why?
I just saw.
I was like, this seems like an important picture. Why isn't it in color?
So whatever the graduation deal. So Tony, me, Tony, and Cluster were in the same 15 feet. And Severe said, "Oh my goodness, this is funny to see all you guys in the same room together." Even though Tony was just at my place not too long ago, but CJ was invited, but whatever.
He probably didn't want to lose his money to me. It's all right.
Those are guys whose stats we read every week in the paper. Cluster told him, Cluster's like one of the greatest storytellers of all time. And he's like, man, who is this guy over at Northwest? They're not even good. This, that. I was like, okay, you're dragging it out, but I get the point. But those are the guys that I wanted to be. Like when I was a sophomore and I was a junior. That's why I didn't want to move to running back. I'm like, man, I'm a black quarterback. Don't you know?
Yeah.
It's not a very good one. No, I was okay. But it just wasn't in the cards, right? But because of the weekly stats and the Metro rushing leaders, I looked at it every week. I would circle tacklers, I would circle INTs, I would circle rushing yards. I'm like, I would look at some guy's stats and I'd be like, they're lying.
Yeah.
Ain't no way that guy had 16 tackles. He's got 160 tackles in 9 games. That's ludicrous.
Only guy I saw do that legitimately was Paul Homer.
Well, yeah, you talk about
he was a tackling machine.
He was a murderer. Right?
Yeah, he was. He was so
I can't believe that guy fixes people.
What's
no,
he
that's
doing now?
Davies, not Homer. Homer was a nut job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Homer was.
No, you know what's funny though? Like
big, thick,
super chill off the field.
Yeah, I didn't know very many Millard North guys like that. I knew guys
that were a little nuts,
like Kevin Bush, Sean Bush, Paul Holly. Those weren't nice. Those weren't nice people.
Like Paul on and off the field couldn't be more different.
I love Paul Holly.
Least. Oh, no, I meant Homer, but that's okay.
I saw Manzito.
Yeah,
another guy who threw for Millard North that was like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
Most people's number 2 or 3, but I saw him. I went to go visit a couple of. I went to go visit a young man who broke his arm over at a middle school. Oh, he's my fave.
Yeah.
Ended up going to prep. I'm not mad about that.
Well, that's because you guys got to get your NIL operation in order, man.
Dude, apparently we are. Man, God bless Coach Yonk. I ain't even gonna say it. God love you, man. Dude, he got like 6 of my guys.
You need Lance to come up here to drop bags for you.
No, see, Lance hated that. Don't let Lance fool you. I used to divvy up schools for our staff to go to and meet at Northwest, and he's like, this ain't college. I'm not going to fawn over an 8th grade. I said, oh, you better learn.
Yes, indeed.
You wonder what he's doing down there in Florida. You think he's fawning over any 8th graders?
That's not true.
But anyway, like those stats were like the paper was the deal.
Oh, yeah. I love, like, it is, I know I sound like old man shouting at clouds, but
Again, that's Simpsons
Yep.
references. See,
Look at you.
I commit.
He
That was the most
learns.
ridiculous thing ever. But do you know why I committed it to memory?
Why?
Because somebody
Sent the GIF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of the
And it looks exactly the thing I'm describing.
Dude from the yeah. So that's why it burned.
It is. I really miss a newspaper.
Yeah.
Like I loved every day in high school. I would go to the library. I'd steal the sports section.
Oh, you were that guy.
Listen, the librarian told me I could.
Man, I couldn't stand people like you.
Until I had open campus as a senior, then I'd steal it from Burger King instead.
When I worked at TAC for however many years, they'd have multiple papers in there, and all of them were missing the sports. I'm like, you guys realize other people want to read this too. Like, just do your thing and bring it back. Like, if you're going to take it to your class, it was your office at TAC. You didn't have classrooms, but
I'll be back.
Yeah, that's all they had to say, Shane. I'll be back.
But I wasn't coming back. I was taking it with me.
And I certainly wasn't using public restrooms, especially in a big building like that. So I was not going to check for
Back in the day.
sports section. You guys can keep it.
Apparently, we're talking about birds on the show today. TK has some thoughts on finches and the finchiness or Finchonian of.
What did I say? Finchin?
I don't.
It sounds like somebody's last name, a running back.
Yeah,
Carlos Finchin.
Yeah. That was TK. What's going on, man?
Good morning, fellas.
What's
How
up?
we doing this morning?
What's up, Buttercup? How's Kansas suburban city somewhere out there life?
Well, it's pretty cloudy right now.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting my dog I feel bad. He's seen all these bunnies and he wants to go get them, but I can't run as fast as he would, or I'd let him.
R.I.P. to your ACLs. What's up?
Yeah. They've been gone for about 3 years, so it doesn't really matter. Quickly.
Yes.
The Nebraska has multiple finches. The house finch, the purple finch, the American goldfinch, the Cassian finch.
I think that would have been an American gold.
I think that was an American.
That looked like an
goldfinch.
American gold. Yeah.
They are pretty yellow with black accents.
I think it was an American gold.
Let's go, DB. TK. That's the
There
first.
we go.
That's the first nice thing that encouragement you've given me in like 3 months. What's going on?
Oh, he's
Hold up. I'm very nice
He's
to
so
you.
dramatic.
I'm
I'm so
dramatic.
nice to you.
TK.
Well, the way you just said that was very dramatic. So
Oh my goodness. This dude got his feelings crushed yesterday by Jacob Padilla over text, and he still hasn't recovered.
Oh, I feel like I got the fine end of that exchange. I don't feel bad about
TK,
that.
he took a big fat L.
I mean, maybe in your book, but I'm as Delulu as Angel Reese, so I'm fine.
yeah, it's okay. It's like I said a few days back. Talk show hosts and lawyers are very common for two things. Like to hear themselves talk, and they often have the wrong opinion.
Says the future lawyer. I don't know if I have a lot of confidence in that there, TK.
I appreciate you, TK.
Very, very quickly.
Yes.
I know we're all excited about Jamarion Parker.
I
From
am.
What DB said, he's a wonderful human being.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I hope that he, stays in their class and succeeds in Nebraska. But there's the most important person in this class, potentially, is on campus right now.
Who's that?
Douglas Utu.
Oh yeah, the huge
Dude,
lineman.
if they can get him, there's a good chance they get the other kid from Bishop Gorman.
Yep.
In the guard, you have two guards, and it is very much like the early 2000s, where you have a pipeline of Polynesian offensive linemen.
Yep.
And they're like, it's a generalization, but they are very athletic, and that's what you need to be very successful at a high level on the offensive line. Is big human beings who are more athletic than the other ones.
TK, you just made my day because
Yes, sir.
you're hitting the nail on the head as we kind of give a little bit of a preview of the show. Appreciate the call. You want to get to Out of Breath, Brian? real
Yeah,
quick?
let's do it. Brian, let's Out of Breath Brian. What's going on, man?
You guys just breaking the mold, taking calls in the first segment.
It's
What's
fine.
up, B?
What's up?
Hey, what we call, man, y'all gotta let us through. This OG right here.
We got no
We gonna
clout.
see.
We just get
Yeah,
bullied.
yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
we better do, B?
Yeah, y'all gotta let us through. Calling on the show before you even got on the radio. What you talking about now?
I'm just gonna go look at some birds.
I'm gonna go check out some finches.
What's up, Brian?
Me and TK come over, take over the show. Who needs you guys now? Come on.
you must be suffering from Hurley syndrome. You got Hurley syndrome already?
Hey, that's Ravi. Now you know he don't want to take prescription medicine for the Hurley syndrome. Okay, it's not me. Not me. I know what to do. I've cleansed myself.
Hey, listen,
I'm all natural.
If you're the Lakers, are you paying that guy $100 and some odd mil?
Are you talking about that dude in the middle?
Yeah. Dan.
Please don't tell me we're talking about him. Please, because my friend sent me. You know him. You know Hurley Ross.
Oh yeah.
He sent me. Yeah. He sent me one. He trolled me. He knows I don't like him. Okay.
But
I consider him one of the weakest Lakers big man center of all time. I'd rather have somebody else. Really. I think we can get by. Anybody,
anybody else.
Hey, I feel like the Rams right now. I'm willing to go to the grocery store and find me a Kurt Warner to take his place. That's all I have to say. But I really called because I'm watching that Chasing 3, and I feel like after watching that last night, the new one, looking at Matt Rule, I'm sipping the Matt Rule rum punch. I feel like calling him Brother Love now. After he showed how he loves. That's the type of love I'm talking about. Don't lie to him. Tell him what it is. There's only 24 hours in a day. Don't waste a minute or a word. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. He is Brother Love. I love you. That's all I can see. Every time he says that now, that's all I want to see. Hey, that's the version of love. Brother Love. And keep giving it to him. If you don't make the cut, we throw you in the trash. Or you get yourself there. All right? That's what I'm taking from it. Just, hey, real tough love. It'll get you there. If you can't deal with it, that's tough. That's life. As soon as you get to that message in life, the better off you be. And I enjoy it, especially since, he is showing up to work. I'm pretty much EDA. That's all I want. I'm small steps. He's showing up to work better than I ain't even go there, but showing up to work. That's all we need, Damon. And I'm ready for it this year. I'm sipping the Rule rum punch. Y'all sip on that Kool-Aid because y'all cheap. I'm on the rum punch, all right? All right, that's what I'm on. That's it.
Appreciate it, B. I'm cheap. You're not cheap. Shane's cheap.
I was gonna say
our cheapness will be fine. We'll let you have the deck shoes and boat type stuff.
I was wearing boat shoes yesterday.
I know it was weirded me out a little bit, but it was cute. I like kind of had on a little linen cloth. I was like,
Did I have linen pants on?
The little button up.
Oh yeah.
It looked a little. I don't think it was linen.
No, it wasn't.
Because it didn't wrinkle like linen.
I do have some linen shirts, but
surprise.
It gets a little, with the air, it gets a little chilly in here, and the linen gets a little cold. You know?
So funny. He said that after watching Chasing 3.
Yeah,
because obviously, you kind of get a feel of what's going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
Knucklehead says to me, yes, last night he gave me a 30-second phone call. He said, you can definitely tell. He said the cool thing about this is so far is he gets to put words to action, right? All the things that people think they hear, that he hears, that he sees, that he experiences. And he had line of the night. He goes, it's early, but I'm just telling you, you can definitely tell who wants to be here and who doesn't. Doesn't matter if you're an old guy or a young guy. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, pretty much 6:30 to 5. I'm on lock. I'm like, AM to PM? Yeah. Okay. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's just a casual 9.5 hour day. That's not that bad.
He said on lock.
10.5 hour day. I can do math.
So that's when B says just show up and go to work. Don't waste a minute. I'm telling you, it's not just words.
Well,
you cannot need a babysitter.
There's also this. I know everybody's all celebrating for the most part. All right, players are going to get paid directly. Guess what that means now? It really is a job.
Listen,
I know it's always been a job, But now it really is a job.
It's not a dirty little secret anymore.
Yeah, like this is, you are being directly compensated.
You won't see any of those little speaking of the articles, you won't see any of those little snarky articles about guys' GPA when they leave school and was Tom graduating his players or was Coach
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I mean, you could make the argument most people haven't cared for a while, but this isn't it.
Just imagine if Oregon wasn't winning.
Yeah.
Think their status would be good?
I doubt it.
Nah, me neither.
This is an employment arrangement now. And listen,
got to take the good with the bad.
That doesn't mean it can't still be all the things that Coach Rule wants it to be, because I've worked at some places where it was, people did look out for each other and they did help each other out and they, you had each other's backs and things like that. But, you're still there for a paycheck, right? Just because you love it doesn't mean you're not still there for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot going on there. We will get to Jamarion Parker, the commitment.
You know how happy that makes me?
Oh, I remember you talking about hanging out with him down in Lincoln.
Just on a humbug. Thank you, Keith Williams.
I was like, because he was like, hey, you go talk to him.
Listen,
basically, wasn't that it?
It's funny. I hadn't been thrown over to somebody like that since T. Frey's got me kicked out against UCLA. This dude grabbed me, but Coach, he grabbed me. He was touching my elbow.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, man, I need you to do something for me. What's that? And he just kind of threw me in that general direction. I want him around as many former guys as possible today. Okay, bud.
Whatever you say, big guy.
And he had no idea. I'm like, man, my nephew went to Ritter.
Yeah.
My sister's in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I wanted to go there last weekend, but
St. Louis?
Well, I was going to meet. We're so tricky. I was going to accidentally bump into Coach Barthel up there because we have developed a thing. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be in. I was like, man, I want to go to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was supposed to be there for a wedding in June, but I don't think I can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, we got work to do up there, man. We got work to do. They got it done.
I was saying, looked like they did some work.
A dude missing almost a full year of tape.
We will talk more Jamarion Parker when we come back. We will get into Dan Hurley and
I don't think B had heard the news yet.
Yeah. You might need to text him and be like, hey, you doing okay? It's a wellness check on my fellow Laker fans. I'm interested to see your thoughts.
Yeah, I got plenty.
Because you and me might be the only people in the world that don't think Danny Hurley's basketball Jesus. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. What is up? We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're just out here, trying to properly identify sportscasters we don't recognize. Be like, oh, I'm not sure who he is.
Oh,
I'm not sure who she is.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Boy, if there was ever a hot mic, we're probably going to jail.
Hey, on the lineup today, we got Anthony Tolliver coming up at 8 a.m., former Creighton Blue Jay, also a real estate mogul. I don't know if you know this. He tries to get it done. He's going to have some basketball camps. We'll talk about it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the old save program. My man, Kevin Melcher.
You got a big attitude with me about it yesterday.
I mean, kind of.
So, to be fair, I was like, there was like 3 or 4 things.
That wasn't even an attitude. What a wiener.
No, there were like
did you read it? Did you read Snark?
Yeah, because there were about 3 or 4 things that I had just been dealing with that I was just kind of over it at that point. And then I got that text and I was like, man.
What'd I say?
You basically, because it was about the Curry thing, because he had given out some Curry shoes.
Yeah, at one of his, yeah.
And he's like, man, I figured you know all about it. And Curry's your guy. I almost wore Curry's this morning just to be petty. But Anthony Tolliver will join the show at 8 a.m. He has one of the most interesting careers.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see if we can get him talk about it a little bit. No, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Somebody actually agreed with you yesterday. I almost fell out of my seat, but it's fine.
Well, listen, some people, it's a small group, but some of us are smart. 8:45, Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. 9 a.m., we got the one and only Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7.
Speaking of smart.
And then we will wrap up the show with Sean Deveny talking a little NBA as the finals start today. Speaking of NBA,
What?
There's some news.
Yeah. Nice screenshot this morning at 5:58, as if I hadn't been up watching.
Well,
But
I don't know.
I do like you. Were you trying to rub it in?
No, I was just trying to make sure.
No, I
like,
think you were trying to rub it in.
no, I really wasn't, because I didn't know how you felt about it. Better than JJ. It's better than JJ.
Yeah, I don't remember, I'm the guy that defended Hurley to you. I defend. Stop it.
Hold on. Let me just start. Because I'm about to be painted as something that's not accurate here.
Here we go.
I love listening.
Everybody
Hurley,
paints
Danny
you,
Hurley
right? Nobody. I'm just telling you, anybody want to paint you.
That's how you end up this shade of brown. Nobody knows what it is.
Ambiguously brown.
You can't say that. It's funny because I said that to him during the break. You didn't hear that part, but that's why Anyway. That's how I often describe myself when people don't know what nationality I am. I just say I'm ambiguously brown.
Wow.
Or I lie to them and tell them I'm Polynesian.
You never mind.
What? Go ahead.
Trying to stay employed.
That's all right. It's overrated.
Apparently not.
Is what it is.
Exactly.
So Danny Hurley is a incredibly good basketball coach.
Huh?
I think his offensive prowess is overrated or overstated. I don't know which.
Now that part I agree with.
And this is where you disagree with me. I don't think he's a good dude. I just don't. I don't know him personally. I've been very, very.
I don't know how you feel comfortable saying that. You just said I don't think he's a very good dude, but I don't know him.
Listen, there's a lot of people I don't know that I knew were bad pretty early. I get vibe checks on people and bad vibes. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
And there's plenty of opposing coaches I like. This isn't they're good and they play Creighton. Love Jay Wright. Like there's a lot of there. You know who I didn't like? Chris Mack. Felt like a bad dude. Not a fan. But there's lots of guys in the league that I like. I'm not obsessed with Ed Cooley the way some people are in terms of his coaching prowess. Never got bad guy vibes off of Ed Cooley.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, it's a vibe thing. It's
I wasn't in. I was never in on. So the only person that I've talked to over the last 15 years that's got me to come around on Cooley was a little bit of Coach Mack.
I was at McDermott had
and a lot of bit of Nick Baugh.
And listen, I think
he and I used to go round and round about Cooley.
I think Cooley's a good coach. I think people, again, overstate maybe the prowess of Ed Cooley. But
so I do want to say one thing though before we get into this.
Yeah.
I can't really have an opinion. I can, but the linear comparisons don't work for me here. So I have to give generalities in terms of what I think he could bring to a franchise.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that would be like asking me
there's
how
no
I felt.
apple to apple comparison.
No, man, that would be asking me like how I felt about Kirby Smart going to the Steelers.
Yeah, we'd have no idea.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Like, it might work. I have no idea. There's some stuff Kirby Smart obviously does well.
But never mind.
What?
There was a driving joke in there and it's not funny.
Yeah, okay.
So what kind of is? Nah, I'm gonna keep it pushing. A lot of open. Never mind. So
just got the ambiguously brown duo up here. Don't worry about it. Just keep on rolling.
Dude, wasn't that a cartoon?
It was. No, it.
Oh no!
There was another.
Stop.
Thing.
Yep.
Another thing.
I knew it sounded familiar. God dang, live radio. So
it's a take off an old SNL sketch that they probably couldn't do anymore.
All right, Gorman and Sasha are gonna be like, oh boy.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be screeching up to the parking lot any second now. It's fine.
Have you seen Gorman drives that rig fast too? He drives it like it's a little car.
What's happening?
Oh yeah.
Sasha's worse.
Just whipping that thing around.
Like, really, guys? But anyway, so I don't know about that. I just there's some things that I automatically. So there's three things I thought.
Okay.
Cultural shock.
Mm-hmm. For him or the players or both?
Both.
Okay.
Buyout. Yep. And he's got to move. He spent all of his life in that northeastern corner.
Yep.
And you're going to go to LA?
Yep.
Now?
Apparently.
And it's not my money, so I don't care.
That's a lot of money.
Well, what is it? It's somewhere between Spo and Lou? What? No, Lou got 570.
Ye-
Spo is like 8,105.
And Brown just got 8.5 for the Kings. Mike Brown.
8.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over. He's
Spo is north of that, I think.
way north.
I think Spo is like 9.5 maybe.
No, Spo was like 8 here. I think Spo was like 8,120 or 8,105.
Oh, I'm talking about per year. Sorry.
So you're talking
We're
somewhere
talking
between
about-
15 and 20.
Yes, that's sorry. We were talking about
he's
different
he's
numbers.
gonna have 2 commas.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
100%.
so
This is a minimum
100 mil.
100 mil deal.
Yeah, minimum.
And so what does that mean? Over 7 years? Over 8 years? It's probably not 10.
No.
10's too big of a number. Usually these contracts are somewhere between 6 and 8. Like that's kind of the sweet spot.
So like if you ask me, hey, do I want guys to play harder? Sure. But I don't know how.
Was that the problem with the Lakers this year though? They
Yeah.
didn't play hard enough?
Yeah.
So that's one of them. So that's an answer.
Yeah, but they're pros. So I don't know like what's the magic formula.
Yeah, I think you're going to have
I mean, you got to remember, like, I wasn't all out on. I've seen so many coaches get. I saw a guy win Coach of the Year,
Mhm.
and then the next year get fired.
Yep.
So I don't like. What am I supposed to do with coaching in the NBA?
I have no idea.
I don't even. Do you? You want me
I
to tell you
have-
Missoula is a good coach?
I don't think he is.
No. So it's like I don't know what to think.
I have no idea.
Doc Rivers keeps getting jobs.
Somehow, it's a miracle.
So I don't. I mean, who's the real Monty Williams?
Please stand up.
I mean, who is it? Do you feel comfy?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Because
The
he was really bad
Yeah, I'll even extend it.
before he got hot in Phoenix.
I'll even extend it to a guy who I think is the best to ever do it in Greg Popovich
He's not the best to ever do it.
in the NBA.
Yeah.
Who?
Well, there's Phil Jackson.
We're gonna have a different discussion about Phil Jackson.
Oh, I forgot. It's because he had good players.
No, that's not. It's not.
Dude,
it's not that.
Get out of here with
It's
that.
not that.
Get out of here with that.
I didn't even make the argument. You can't make the argument for me and then get mad about the argument.
Because it's gonna be like most things. You give it time, and you're gonna relent.
No, that almost never happens. You feel like I relent, and I just get.
Lack of admission doesn't mean you won. It just means you put your head in the sand.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because if you're going to take the greatest to ever do it, then you got to take his post-star career. So don't give me any Phil Jackson stuff about good players without using it as the same thing to discount what Pop is doing without great players.
Well, that's kind of where I was going, but you kind of jumped down my throat about.
Well,
the Phil
I
Jackson
mean,
thing, so.
it beats the nonsense.
There's no nonsense here. Just because you're wrong doesn't mean it's nonsense.
Right.
I mean, that seems like some self-evaluation.
Well, he only has good players, but man, when Pop had Duncan and Tim and Mono and Parker, man, those scrubs, boy, he willed them to greatness.
Well, I mean, if you had let me go, I would have made a similar point to what you're saying here about Pop.
I'm being sarcastic.
First time ever. I've never seen that from you before.
Most coaches need a certain amount of talent.
Oh, weird. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. It's a very normal show today. Nothing weird going on at all.
Yeah, if you guys think we fight a lot, we do.
Yeah, it's on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. DB's been trying to do the same tweet for 30 minutes, but he's got a little touch of the ADHD as an adult, and it's taking him a minute.
Again, I asked the question. You never give me an answer.
What question was that?
Listen, you want to be team?
You asked me the same question last year, Eric.
I actually probably did.
That's a beautiful question.
Because guess what?
That's a beautiful. You know who he was talking to when he said that was a beautiful question?
What?
That was me.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful question.
So, do you or don't you have any Adderall? Because if you want it to go away, then HBO, man, help a brother out.
I do not.
You know people.
Yeah, I do.
Let's just broker this deal out loud.
That's called drug dealing, Damon.
Well,
People with our skin tone have been trying to stop doing that for a while now.
Wow, now we're on the wire.
Although you don't run into a lot of Indian drug dealers, not here at least. I'm sure they exist.
you know what I was just gonna say instinctually.
What's that?
Ever been to Mumbai?
Mumbai. I have actually.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Cool.
To Mumbai, went to Vadodara, went to Delhi.
Is that where they did Slumdog Millionaire?
No.
Where was that?
I don't know, but it wasn't there. It might have been Mumbai. It wasn't Vadodara. Vadodara is where my dad's family's from.
Yeah.
And then Delhi, we went and saw the Taj Mahal. It was pretty dope.
Jewels and all.
Nope, no jewels. Damn British. I'm just saying, we get an Indian prime minister. He doesn't give us any of our stuff back? Cool.
Jewels and mules, baby.
Man. Traitor.
Anyway, I'm not down on I'm not like thumbing my nose up at Hurley because I do think he's a great coach. I just don't know. I don't know the value of a coach in the pros.
I don't know. I also don't know just stylistically how that translates. That's my biggest question.
Well, according to DeMarinis and Jacob Padilla and some other guys that love his offense, at least the Lakers will cut hard.
It's literally just emotion offense.
Stop it.
It's literally just emotion offense.
Stop
Bro, I
it.
love you, Damon, because you I swear you read my notebook.
Yeah. I'm all in on Matty D.
I get it. We love Matt DeMarinis. Also, we've gotten the group to 2.
We're gonna get Jacob to call in because I think he has some things brewing. I don't know how combative he would be over the air.
I don't know. He'll get combative in real life.
He's
though.
very combative in real life.
Yeah, he'll fight me.
Yeah. As I think most people would that spend any time around you.
I don't know. My wife likes me, or this one does at least. What?
Shane just puts his head down sometimes.
Yeah, well, you just gotta plow on through.
It's ridiculous.
I'm just saying, if it's scripted, it would be the most complex offense known to mankind, but it's not. It's emotion offense.
I don't know how that works.
It's emotion offense.
And if you're UConn, where do you go?
That's the interesting question here, I think.
It is very short notice.
Because people are like, oh, maybe they'll get Brad Stevens. I think Brad Stevens likes his job.
Yeah, I mean,
he's pretty good at it, apparently, minus the Joe Mazzulla part of it all, but Ime didn't really do him any favors there either, so you know what I mean?
That's other establishments' problems now.
Yeah, that's not my pig, not my farm anymore. But
okay, verse.
Well, because you got mad when I said the other one.
What?
Not my circus, not my monkeys.
I wouldn't say I got mad.
Man, you didn't love it.
I'll get my nuts.
I understand some people.
Are you a cartoon character?
It's freaking bats.
I don't think so.
You didn't love it.
Like, just because some people use that term derogatorily, it doesn't mean the animal doesn't still exist.
If you don't love it, leave it.
Like, what am I supposed to? Is not my elephants, not my circus? Then it's like, oh, we're doing Indian stereotypes now with the elephants? Like, what are we doing? What am I saying? Not my cotton candy, not my circus? What are we doing? Not my circus peanuts, not my circus? Come on.
There's no failure in sports.
Not my pig, not my farm. Fitz Vers, he's from western, central Nebraska. He's from 308. Like, that's where he lives.
Lucky for you guys.
I grew up in the circus, obviously.
Poor Sasha.
I haven't been able to get out. I'm still here.
Just pins and needles every day.
I didn't swear, though.
Well, those are our other two guests from last week.
That's something. You're not getting fined from what I say. You might get canceled, but you're probably not fined.
I thought it was just farms and pigs.
You can't say leakage?
You can say anything once.
Much like T.I., you can do whatever you like.
Oh, man.
But Dan Hurley, I don't know if he's going to be any good. He might be.
I can't believe.
Give us your thoughts. 888-638-4876.
Are you the only one struggling with the timing? Do they realize the playoffs are starting tonight?
Yeah, I think they do. Well, I don't know. They're not involved, so they might not. They may just be like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
Like, why the news drop this morning?
I have a theory, right? So Woj gets all of his information from executives and sources within teams that usually they're doing him a favor because he will do them favors, right? Like every once in a while.
Yeah, I get how it works.
Well, yeah, not everybody might. I'm
sorry.
I'm trying to give some context for listeners. You're not the only one here, bud.
Shane. Okay.
Well, because I think some people are under the impression that like Adam Schefter and Shams and Woj just are so unbelievably good at their jobs that they get information that nobody wants them to have. And that's not true.
Okay.
They get information that, for the most part, people want them to have. And every once in a while, they throw him a bone on something that probably shouldn't get out. That's how it works.
I'm going to go to a pencil instead of a pen because I'm going to.
You going to throw something at me?
I'm going to keep from putting this in your esophagus.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
We don't need like a Dark Knight situation with the heads on the table. And
You thought I was tough? This jump will kill you.
Okay, carry on.
What was I saying?
Absolutely nothing.
Well,
he touched it.
That's
He touched it.
pretty typical. No, but so my thought this morning was, okay, what side gets something out of this leaking through Woj right now?
Well, it keeps the sorry Lakers relevant.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think if they're trying to close him, if they're trying to close Hurley, this could put him in an awkward spot with UConn.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, especially the timing.
Yes, right? And so, like, if this happens in March, like Lakers, say the Lakers were having a worse season than they were. They knew they were going to fire their coach back in March or whatever, and like they are starting that process. Or maybe they've already fired their coach already, and they start the process in March. And you're like, okay, this sort of makes sense. Or even late April or like early April. That sort of makes sense. At this point in the calendar, especially, you've got a guy like Alex Caravan that just decided not to go to the draft.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot if you're Hurley to go back to. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but there's going to be some feelings there, I would think, if he tries to go back to a situation knowing he's this far down the line with the Lakers, that would really put UConn in a terrible spot.
And would the Lakers allow this to be breaking news since whatever 5:40 this morning and be willing to have egg on their face? Now, I'm not talking about like Louisville police willing to have egg on their face. I'm talking about
no one's more willing than the Lakers.
Have you ever seen Frozen?
I'm familiar with the song you're referring to.
Bro, let it go.
I'm probably not gonna.
You seem very hurt right now. You're gonna,
at like almost 37, I kind of feel like I know how I'm gonna be.
You asked me the same question last year, Eric.
No, that's how it's gonna be.
How's it gonna be
when you don't know me?
It's a wrong question.
So if Spo is what we get, he's 8,105, right? Shane, was that the internet that just dropped?
It sure was.
So Spo is 8,105.
Okay, I'm gonna do math here. 105 divided by 8. You're talking about 13 and change a year.
He's got to be more than that because isn't Spo a 15 to Eric Spoelstra contract? All right, let's do that because Michael Boker loves my show prep. Eric Spoelstra salary. Let's do that. How's that?
Well, I think our internet went down, so that might take a minute, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, so I was right the first time. He's 120. He's
119, 120.
Which is 15 on the dot.
Yeah. So that's why I got the 15 to 20 mil.
That makes sense.
You're in a. So he's going north of 100 mil.
Yep. So for how many years? Probably 8.
What's 8 times 15? That's 120.
Yeah.
No, it'll be more than Spo. My bad.
You think he gets more than Spo?
Well, what did Andy Reid get? Isn't Andy Reid the highest paid NFL coach?
Probably.
I think he's 8,100 or 5,100.
Yeah, right.
So he's getting 100 somehow.
Yeah, but there's no way they're. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they are.
I mean, and I know
but logically,
people are going to roll their eyes and are like, "Man, you just compared him to a coach that he's been in the NFL." I do, but
you have to pay to make him leave.
That's the thing,
right? It's not paying for what he's worth. You have to pay.
That's the thing.
You have to overcome inertia with the pay, right? You have to get him to move with the pay. And that's where it becomes you have to pay a premium, right? And that's where you kind of get out over your skis a little bit here because you might end up paying, like you very well could have. And again, like you said earlier, it's not your money, so I don't necessarily care. It's certainly not my money because I don't even root for him. But
it just, again, not necessary.
I don't. I mean, I just don't. Well, people care more about the money the teams that they root for spend, even though it's still not their money.
Yeah, it doesn't count against the cap.
And I care even less about teams that I don't root for what they spend. But you're paying a pretty penny for a guy that's never coached in the NBA. Not that that's totally unusual because we're seeing, Jason Kidd got paid a pretty penny coming straight from, wherever. I'm sure they were going to pay JJ Redick a pretty penny to do.
Mike Brown's been fired twice, right?
Yeah.
It's just a weird league.
It's a super weird league.
I can't
And there's guys that we consider really good coaches that can't get jobs. So
that's a good point.
I mean, and then there are guys we don't consider very good coaches that can't stop getting jobs. It's what we do out here. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe they're good interviewers, DB.
All right, Doc.
We got Anthony Tolliver coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you miss anything, which you might have missed a lot in that first hour, you can catch us on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts. And you'll definitely want to
still on
down so far. Haven't pulled us off the air yet. You'll definitely want to make sure you download the podcast of this next segment with former Creighton Blue Jay Anthony Tolliver. Anthony, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
AT, good morning, man. You got to help me. So this is the perfect morning for you for a multitude of reasons. Not only the camp and the community, but obviously the start of the NBA. But I just got to get your opinion because I'm a diehard Lakers fan. And I don't know how to, in my head, reconcile, like, you know, a coach of the year like Mike Brown getting fired twice, and he's got the big extension, and I get Spo, and there's just a lot of retreading, whatever, right? How much difference does coaching make, in your opinion, versus the guys in that locker room in the NBA?
This is kind of how I've always viewed coaching. I've always viewed coaching very much so, in the NBA especially. Let's not talk about college. College to me is a completely different answer.
Yep.
Coaching in the NBA is super important. Super important. Once you get to the playoffs, further playoffs. Because to me, they can lose you a game. And I mean the coach does not have the ability to then that's whenever a coach really mess you up. But otherwise, the player really is in right in the player's hands to whether or not you're going to win or lose 99% of the time. But the coaches make the difference, and I believe in potentially winning championships in close games.
Nice. All right. So we're breaking up a little bit. Wherever you're at right now, stay right there because I think we got perfect reception right there.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I'm good. I'm just walked outside so my kids wouldn't be yelling in my ear.
Tough hang sometimes. Anthony, you've obviously had a super long NBA career, which I buried the lead a little bit there by just calling you a former Blue Jay. I apologize. You just spent 12 years in the league, so I don't want to diminish that at all. But you had a super interesting.
No. Here's sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
That's how I identify now. Whenever people ask me like, "Hey, you play basketball?" I'm like, "Yeah, I used to." They're like, "Where'd you play?" I said, "Creighton." Like I don't.
Kills the conversation because you don't want the attention. That might be the most 18 thing ever.
I don't need to talk about the NBA whatsoever.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit how you ended up getting to the NBA because your path and your story is pretty unique in the sense of you were a very good college player, especially your last couple of years at Creighton. You're 13-7, which 13 points under Dana Altman's 20, 25 under anybody else, I think, if my math's right there. But you end up I don't know that you were on a ton of NBA radars at that point, but you really took advantage of this shift into the league where you developed this shooting skill that you didn't show a ton at Creighton, and it was sort of the perfect place at the perfect time for you. How kind of walk us through that process, because I'm not sure I've ever heard you talk about really in depth going from kind of more of a traditional big at Creighton to one of the first stretch fours of the era in the NBA.
Yeah, so I'd start out by saying, going back to high school, I was always a really good shooter. So my shot looked much different in high school than it did once I, got to the pros. But that was kind of my thing. I was 6'8". I could, stretch the floor and was very unique. Like our high school team, we had a 6'5" center, and I was 6'8", but I would be on the wing. I led our high school state championship team in 3-point percentage. So like shooting touch and shooting was always a thing that I had, and that was a part of the reason why Creighton, came calling. It just happened to be that, the way that recruiting went and everything else, they didn't feel like they found a big guy to kind of fill that role or whatever. Like they were looking for a big bruiser, Brody Darren type of guy to go in the center, and then I could be at the 4. But it just never happened. So I had to fill my role. And so I've always been, very much so a role player, going all the way back since I was grade. I've never been the best player on my team. So I've always known to humble myself and just, fill a role and help a team win. That's kind of how it all started. And so, when I got closer to playing in the NBA, all my off seasons, like even at Creighton, I did not practice very much down low because I knew that wasn't. So kind of transitioning from Creighton to the pros, all my off seasons were dedicated to shooting and to going off the dribble and to playing, defense on the wings instead of just bruising down low. So that's why a lot of people who are Creighton fans, they didn't know I had all those capabilities because I was, wasn't my role on Creighton.
So how much of like kind of the journey, because you've been doing this for this camp for a while, and you know how I feel about Kevin and your guys' impact in the community and kids in general. How much of the way that you were raised, the way that you played, that you can hear the humility, you can kind of hear the unselfishness, even when you defer, you say former Blue Jay and not NBA. How much of that was a catalyst for wanting to pour back into young people?
I mean, yeah, I think that there's some ties there. I think that that's definitely tied together. But I don't know. I think that just giving back has always been something that I enjoy. Right? It's not an obligation to me. It's a privilege. I think there's a huge difference. I feel like a lot of people who feel obligated to give back almost out of, hey, I made it. You know what? Like, man, I feel like I need to go back to the neighborhood and give back because, I made it. And I feel like I have this like guilt for making it, guilt for successful. I don't have any guilt for being successful, right? I worked for this and God opened a lot of doors for this, right? So I'm meant to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be successful in that regard. But for me, I enjoy coming back to Omaha and doing camp. I really do. I come back to Springfield doing camp, getting in the community and seeing people and helping people, and it's a pleasure. For me, it's something that I get every single year. I tell the kids, I say at the end of the camp, it's almost always. There's some camps and some individual kids. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you're done. But most of the time, the kids are so much fun, and I have as much fun or more fun than the kids do. So, like I said, it's something I really enjoy, and it becomes something that it's not an obligation. It's a privilege.
We're talking with Anthony Tolliver, former Creighton Blue Jay, also happened to play in the NBA for like a dozen years, something like that. But he doesn't like to talk about that part. Anthony, another way that you've kind of given back, and we'll get into some more details about the camp and stuff as well. before we let you go. But another way that, because I follow you on social media and stuff like that, and one of the things you're talking about more than almost anything is kind of this financial literacy and trying to build generational wealth and all these things, right? And it's something you're obviously super passionate about. And I'm curious because that's sort of giving back in a way as well, kind of providing this education for some people. But what made you so passionate about that topic in particular?
So, I was a finance major at Creighton. I've always kind of been a numbers nerd. I take pride in being a nerd. That's fine. I think it's cool to get good grades and to love learning. So I love learning. Picking up books and listening to podcasts and doing all the such. When I get a subject that I love, and I sit in, I love to dive all the way in. And so, financial literacy, being an African-American male in the United States of America, being able to, didn't grow up with any money. So, growing up in a family without really extras, I guess, is the best way to describe it. We had food on the table over our head, but, we didn't have, my mother did not have a true opportunity to build generational community. Neither did my father, right? And maybe there's a few that slipped through the cracks that maybe that played professional sports or maybe that or whatever, but like true, ability to do that. And I don't want to go too deep, but like just a really quick, like with, the history of our country with redlining and with everything else with housing, passing down a house to the next generation is one of the biggest wealth transfers that we have. Right. And so there was a lot of opportunities that unfortunately a generation ago, or even two generations ago, people that looked like me didn't have an opportunity. So for me, financial literacy is a way that, I can give back. And it's not about to Black people, it's about giving back to all people, but in particular, Black youth to like, right? The game is here. Don't just learn basketball, football, baseball. Learn the financial game. Learn the banking system. Learn how to, save. Learn how to invest at a young age. So that you get older, and you want to start a business, you're 25 years old, so you amassed 30, 40, 50,000 bucks from stock that you've been able to save from working and mowing lawns, right? Like it's just, there's so many different things that can come from that, so many opportunities and so many that can be open. But I'm just trying to empower people to open the doors. That's kind of in a short answer. It's, hey, like open your own doors. Start figuring this thing out for yourself and for your family, so that if no one else in your family has done it, be the first.
You mentioned save. Let's talk about it. Another year, another camp. You're back in the city. You mentioned doing them in Springfield as well. Let's talk about what we're going to get here in Omaha this time around.
Yeah, this time around, Omaha is going to get the best. It's going to get back at Scott Catholic again. Anybody who's interested in signing up, K through 8th, it's going to be another amazing camp. I think that every single year, I say that, but I think that every single year it exceeds expectations. Every year I get better. Every year, we bring in and improve a bunch of several players from Creighton always come. This year, I'm trying to get some of the women's players as well.
Oh, nice.
One of my good friends is Kiani Lockett's father. So trying to get her out there if she's not too busy, and maybe one or two other of the girls as well. But I'm just here, man. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to just really just pour back into the kids. my kids, believe it or not, are not huge basketball kids. They don't really like basketball that much. Like a little bit, but I'm just hungry to pour into the next generation. My camp and my camps for me. It's a way for me to really give generation to them.
Anthony, real quick here, where can people go get if they want to get registered for the camps, want to get signed up, want to be involved? How can they do that?
Program.org is the website. Not only you love, you've been a part of the camp in the past or whatever. They're starting to be old enough to essentially have kids of their own that can come to my camp. It's actually kind of getting crazy. But signing kids up, that'd be amazing. But also, really big important thing we just started doing a few years ago was, hey, even if you don't have a kid and you want to bless somebody in the community, you can go on to sayprogram.org and you can sponsor a kid for camp. We've had like last year, we had over half the camp was actually sponsored. So I was able to go out into the community, North Omaha, South Omaha, and find underprivileged kids that would never have been able to afford to come to my camp. And I was able to bring them in and give them the high level instruction, right? So if you have a heart to give back to the community, this is an awesome way to do it. Saveprogram.org. Like I said, camp is coming up after the 4th of July, 9th through the 11th, I believe. And so, yeah, would love to, if you have a kid, sign them up. If you have a kid, and sponsor another kid, because it's just a great way to give back to the local community.
And Anthony, I just want to make sure you did cut out there for a second, so you can do all that, register, get involved, sponsor a kid, all that at saveprogram.org. Is that right?
Saveprogram.org. Absolutely.
Awesome. Anthony Tolliver, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time and everything you do for the community, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, AT. Appreciate it.
That's Anthony Tolliver, former Creighton Blue Jay. Also, played some professional basketball for a while.
Yeah.
Just, casually for
kind of wove that in.
decade plus.
I just like his demeanor. He's super humble.
Yeah, he's there's something about being, he's sort of this odd combination of like self-aware. We've talked about this a little bit before, self-aware and ambitious, right? Like you have to be pretty ambitious to have the college career he did and be like, no, I still think I can play in the NBA, right? Because he wasn't on a lot of people's radar at that point. But still be self-aware enough to be like, I'm a role player. Like this is what I do. I'm going to make it, whether it's at Creighton, whether it's in the NBA, wherever it is, as a role player.
We talk about it like it's cool, right? Get in where I fit in. But most people aren't really willing to do that.
Well, and most people don't realize that where they fit in isn't the star of the show, right?
Yeah.
Like you might be like, oh yeah, I'll get in where I fit in. But it's because you think you're the star of the show. It's really easy to want to fit in there, right? Yeah. Like it's real easy to want to fit in that number.
But not to be able to pull it off.
Right. Yes. Right. The desire is pretty easy to want to fit in if that's where you think you fit in. It's a totally different thing to be aware enough to be like, hey, what can I do to make the team better, and where can I carve out a career here and put myself, like he was saying, in a position to pass down wealth throughout his family, and kind of teach other people how to do it as well.
And that's
super cool thing.
And that's always refreshing to hear, because you don't see that too often, where somebody who's really good at something and like he said, he likes to dive into his passions, and then he dives back into giving back to the community afterwards. It's just refreshing to hear.
I am refreshed.
Shano, how do you think that audio was?
For the most part, it was okay.
Okay.
Like
yeah, we had
85 to 90% good.
A couple rough spots, but I think we're all right. Big takeaway, saveprogram.org is where you can get involved.
Yeah, July 9th to the 11th.
Get signed up. It's Cut Catholic.
Good. Jergy's always, Kaz, just the crew out there at Scott is pretty community centric.
You know, their
too.
AD was my freshman math teacher.
Really?
Don Kasner?
Yeah, that's what I said, Kaz.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
He taught my accelerated advanced algebra class.
You're
As
just a good person.
Yeah. I always liked him.
Every time I see him, it's just like,
yeah.
Man.
He probably doesn't remember me because that's a minute ago now, and I wasn't very good at math.
I can't imagine he had a lot of Ravis.
No, but it was Miller North, and there were a lot of people that, not a lot, but there were some people that looked like me that were better at math than I was. So,
what, short and with glasses?
I'm taller than you, homie.
I was speaking of myself, short with glasses.
I didn't have glasses in high school. I didn't have glasses until I was in my early 20s.
Really, late bloomer
or late degrader? I don't know. Started getting away from me at some point,
Well, maybe that was the issue. Maybe we should have got in them early. I know I should have.
Should have got those glasses early. Yeah, I definitely would have made it better as an athlete, as a 5'9" Indian guy, if I had gotten glasses. That was the problem.
Sounds pretty short to me.
How tall are you, Shano? Okay. I'm just saying, in the Indian world, I'm a giant.
I almost just spouted out like push for depth. But as I'm watching our huddle clip from Passing League yesterday, I get all these random things in my head.
Yeah, you're getting confused. Yes, you're getting distracted over there. I was watching a little film last night.
Lewis Central's film, or their field, is incredible.
Yeah. I wasn't watching Lewis Central film.
I mean, look at this. Isn't that beautiful?
Well, it looks like a football field.
You're an idiot.
Is it not a football field?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, it looks like I got it right there, bud.
It's a Carolina blue trim. You are blind.
No, I just wasn't looking at the trim. I was just looking at the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I'm not looking out there and be like, oh, who's got Carolina blue trim out there? Ooh, that's nice. What are we doing?
Whose film you were watching, Mr. Parker?
I was watching a little Jamarion Parker.
So he's missing a year. I told you that story,
yeah,
right?
You did. So we've only got about a minute left here, but I do want you to tell that story again so people get a little better context for Parker and kind of what his background is, and maybe why Nebraska is such a big fan of him and who he is and how he operates. But if you haven't been paying a ton of attention, it's June, maybe you're on vacation or something. Nebraska got a 4-star commit at the running back spot, Jamarion Parker. Jamarion?
Okay. Back in St. Louis, too.
That's a good place to be.
Good place to be.
It is a good place to be. It's fairly close here, and that's a place where they pump out a ton of talent. Missouri in general, but St. Louis especially, really good college football talent, and not bad college basketball talent either with our guy Ryan Kalkbrenner coming out of St. Louis. Big Kalk.
Oh, yep. Parker, Kalkbrenner. I mean, I get it. Right?
Their body types are almost identical.
Right there, real similar. 2
peas in a pod.
Absolutely.
Like Jenny and Forrest, peas and carrots. We will get to.
What? What are you laughing at?
We're gonna get back to more Jamarion Parker coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. And we got to remind you, if you're heading into work or bebopping around town this morning, make sure you're wearing that seatbelt, because seatbelts prevent injuries and save lives, but only when worn properly. What do you got to do, DB?
Buckle up.
Make it click. Make it click. That's a message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So let's talk about Jamarion Parker here a little bit before we get to our guy, B. Edwards, at 8:45. So you obviously had a conversation with him while he was in Lincoln. Found out some...
Long time ago.
Found out some... What song is that?
I don't know. I think it's the Beatles, right?
Nope.
Sounds like one of those guys.
Dom McClain.
Yep.
Jeez.
Oh, that's
Shane.
American Pie. Yep.
Unbelievable.
Are you sure that's not Don Henley?
Why do you keep saying that? I was just curious.
Because I thought some song that we were talking about was Don Henley one time, and he was adamant that it wasn't, and he was right. And so now every time I just ask him if it's Don Henley.
Shane does know music.
He does. It's like he was a DJ or something.
So did golf break back?
She must
have.
Must have. Nope. Swiatek's still serving, so she might have gotten to add. Oh, she got back to deuce.
Deuce.
All right. Got a little French Open women's semifinals going on. Swiatek and Coco Gauff. But we're going to talk about Jamarion Parker right now.
Yeah.
You came away super impressed talking to him.
I just
you like him?
Yeah. It's a guy that I would cheer for, and he said a couple things this is way back during spring ball, and he came up for a visit, and he talked about Nebraska, and it was just funny. He said, they're showing me the most love. Like, I think they believe in me.
Mm-hmm.
And those are his words, right? And so I felt like, and I said this real time during the show, I said, I know other suitors are going to come, but I felt like Nebraska was going to be in a good spot because they got to him before, like, word was out. They kind of stuck.
Good he was?
They kind of stuck with him.
Yeah,
they knew he had been out of football a year, and he changed schools. Because he experienced some tragedy in his household. Now he can speak to that. I don't know if it's what's out there, but he witnessed something.
He had a really rough go of it there for a little bit.
Yeah,
and missed most of a season
right in front of him that kind of derailed his season, and so it took him a while to recover from being that close to the action emotionally, and he's he said he needed to get away, and so he got to Ritter. And really kind of embraced what it's about. He's a 10.5 guy. They've got him somewhere around 10.4. Really
in the 100.
Really gifted runner.
Yeah.
And I think he's not very big. He's
lean.
Yeah, he's smaller than me.
Frame wise.
Yeah. And so
he's listed about 6 foot 190. You think that's accurate?
No.
Okay. Leaner than that, or shorter than that?
The 190 is probably right.
Okay, a little shorter.
I don't know if he's 6. Yeah, I don't know if he's 6 foot.
Okay,
I wouldn't.
He kind of runs a little tall though.
Yeah, he's up. He is a bit of an upright runner.
Yeah,
which I don't normally like, but he's a glider too.
He runs easy.
He's an easy runner.
Yeah, he gets to that edge and it's gone.
Like, that's what I like.
Yeah.
He is, and to Nebraska's credit, because you guys got to remember, they get a 4-star. He hadn't always been like a 4-star because he was kind of buried. And again, he's missing a year of tape. And Nebraska was in on him so early, like from the minute they got there. So when Ryan Callahan and those guys, or Vince or Keith, when they talk about their database, they got a database.
Yeah.
And I think them being early to the party and being so all in early was a huge advantage, because we knew other suitors were coming.
Yeah.
By we, I mean
anybody.
Me and JP, like the player. I didn't talk about it after staff because they never said a word to me. Like, they didn't say, "Hey, how'd it go?" They didn't do any of that.
Yeah, they're just like, "Hey, go talk to this guy."
Yeah, and moved on.
Yeah,
I didn't think anything of it except for Coach Barthel and I were going to try to cross paths in St. Louis when they went and made a visit. But I mean, that's a really, really good get. And now they're going to have to hold some guys off, sure.
Yeah.
But if you ask me if he's a guy that doesn't really enjoy the recruiting process,
which is beneficial if he commits to you early.
Yeah.
Because guys that like the dog and pony show a little bit,
and we're seeing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Right?
We've seen it I would argue with another kid that's choosing between Nebraska and Alabama.
Yeah, that's a little. I mean, we could get into that because listen, again, I'm not knocking the kid. I don't know
anything about him.
I don't know.
But you can just tell it seems like some people like the process more than others.
Yeah, it's a red flag for me.
Sure.
But I'm not coaching.
It's less so for me because I understand the appeal of it, right? Like people are showing you love, people will show you wanted. You've worked hard for this and now it's paying off. Like, I get sort of enjoying it. But if you enjoy that, it's where if you enjoy it too much, and certainly if you enjoy it more than the actual football, that's where it's obviously a red flag.
I have to be careful, right? I just don't want to, just because I wouldn't do it, or
doesn't mean there's not another.
It doesn't mean you can't still love,
be productive and
or
be
do what you're
successful.
doing.
And, yeah.
I just always try to limit the distractions because at some point you got to settle in.
Mhm.
So
it's a little harder to settle in when you're sort of enjoying the ride.
Yeah. But anyway, like back to Parker, it's just he was animate. Like he just said, and I could typically get a good feel for that.
Mhm.
That's why, I was telling some guys a couple weeks after that. I understand he's going to have suitors,
Mhm.
but I think Nebraska's in a really good spot because I listened to his heart.
Mhm.
And I think he's one of those people that wants to be in an environment and in a culture where it's not about, as my man DJ Rezak would say, it's not about pleasing, performing, or perfecting. It's about I think they're invested in me for me. Like this is who they are, and they want to see me as like a whole person. Because he kept talking about that.
Yeah.
He's like, and he said, it's like, they showed me love before people thought I was good.
Mhm.
And I was like, really? Like, and it's hard to go back and track the ascent of like his star rankings.
And it is.
But it seems like he was pretty good for a while, even though I knew he was missing
some tape.
He missed the season.
Yeah. Well,
and I had seen how that had affected some, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
was right in our very own household, right? That was one of the things that was held against Caleb with no
junior tape.
No
hardly.
junior tape.
Yeah. Except for when he just, tears up a state championship game, not a big deal.
Jeez.
I mean, just like a casual zero conditioning, like what was it, 3 interception, 12 reception game? Like, I don't know, just whatever.
No big deal.
He probably should have taken that second one back. But anyway, I think that's where the conditioning came into play after not having practice. Not having practice for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, the thing that you said of
that's just a really good job of that is like boots on the ground recruiting.
Well, and the thing that's going to be a difference maker and why, like, I'm not too worried about him in particular is when you finally feel like you find somebody that believes in you,
mm-hmm.
like that'll trump just about everything else. Right. Because there's a difference between showing
it's a feel.
And it's a huge factor, and it's hard to overcome if you're someone else, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you get the sense that somebody believes in you early, it creates sort of a sense of loyalty to that person or program or whoever. And I mean, full disclosure, I've experienced some of that doing this job in radio, right? Where I'm somebody else and you just never, I'm somewhere else, right? You just never really get the sense that they believe in you or want you all that bad. And then you move somewhere and you're like, oh, that's what that feels like, right? It's a whole different deal. And it does make a huge difference, not only in how you feel about that place, but it also makes a huge difference in how you perform and play.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially young people. I'm just having this discussion with a couple of middle schoolers that I'm trying to transition. They're at other schools. They're not coming to Westside, but they're just young people that I care about. And I'm like,
DB out there recruiting again.
It's hard to give something you don't have, right? So it's hard to give grace when you've never received grace. Yeah. It's hard to give love when you've never felt being truly loved, right? So you're just trying to build those skill sets that allow you to be sensitive to what's going on around you, and he's definitely got it. Like he needs and feels being connected. Because he knows what that's like through what's happened with his family.
Yeah.
So he knows what it feels like when he gets
and he values it probably more than most.
100%.
That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Brian Edwards coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we're joined now by the one and only Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. B, what's up?
What's happening, fellas? How we doing?
Just trying to make it. Just today. Just a ordinary day. How about you?
I am doing well. I was gutted for Dustin the other night. Did you see how
it broke my heart?
Yeah, me too.
At what point as it's going on did you feel like, okay, the longer this goes, he may have a chance, or were you like, man, just get this over? Which
No,
one?
I was thinking he had a chance,
Me too.
especially when he opened up that cut on the forehead. And I don't know if you've looked at the closing sequence again when Makachev had his leg and he was about to throw an uppercut, and that's when Makachev had great instincts and like, oh, I better dip on this, and then he kind of twisted his leg and knocked him off balance simultaneously, and that led to the finish. I mean, if Dustin could have gotten that uppercut off before he noticed, I would have loved to have seen what would happen then. But hey, with the cancellation of the press conference, if you haven't bet Michael Chandler yet, I mean, we'll see if the fight happens or not. But he's never pulled out of a fight. I'm wondering if it was an injury or if there's negotiation issues going on with the extension or if Dana and Connor are beefing. But I just think I think you bet Chandler regardless. And with all this news now, and the odds haven't even changed, I just think you got to hammer Michael Chandler, in my opinion. Don't you love Chandler in that fight?
I do, and I don't trust McGregor as far as I could throw him. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact I've never really liked him. I just don't see how you could come back at this level. I mean, you have if you're taking McGregor, it has to be on name brand alone, unless you think Chandler's shot, because McGregor hasn't looked good.
Yeah, McGregor's never going to win another fight again, and he's still partying. And it's not. I mean, McGregor's chance is just he's still got power. He can land something. But I mean, do you remember the beating Chandler took from Gaethje and went the distance?
Yep.
It's not like he got submitted by Dustin, but Dustin had landed a bunch of big shots. Chandler's got a great chin. Is my point there.
He's just been through so much. I just don't think. So I worried a little, but then I was like, well, it's not like McGregor can mount some sort of onslaught. Like he's not conditioned to go there.
Yeah, I think McGregor's only shot is landing something big early before he gets gassed. Yeah, but Chandler's got a good chin in my opinion. So
I just hope it happens. I'm a little nervous.
I'm a little nervous too.
Yeah, we got 3 weeks to find out.
Yeah,
that's a long 3 weeks if you're hoping for that fight.
Yeah, it is. And it could go all the way up to the end.
I would say, until he marches out there, I'm not sure anybody's going to
feel
good
if
about
Ryan
it.
Garcia can show up against Haney, I'm gonna remain hopeful.
Right. McGregor's not partying harder than Garcia, but maybe as hard.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's still
certainly as distracted.
Maybe he's still smarting a little bit from the bad remake of
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
You think Jake Gyllenhaal beat him up a little bit?
I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing almost went straight to streaming.
Right.
So right now you're still getting Michael Chandler at -115. That's basically even money on a guy that you would take anyway, right? B, is that right?
Oh yeah, and I'd already bet it. I've bet more on it this week with the rumors of maybe injury to Connor or what who knows who knows. But Ariel Helwani, who as dialed in as anybody, said there's still great optimism the fight's going to happen, which leads me to believe there might have been a minor injury. But regardless, I was already on Chandler. I just think if you gamble on UFC, if you haven't bet Chandler yet, I just advise you to do that.
We're talking with Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. B, let's get to a little NBA Finals action tonight. It seems like there's been an incredibly long layoff, and we're finally back in action. But Mavs are 6.5-point dogs tonight, and that over/under number's at about 215.5. How you feeling there?
Yeah, so I wrote my article about this game last Friday morning, so 6 days ago. We've been waiting. So it's Thursday night, the last game for Dallas and Minnesota. So I got over 214.5 like a week ago, or 5 or 6 days ago. But I still like over at 215.5. So the over is on a 5-1 run for both teams. the two head-to-head regular season meetings were final scores of 138 to 110 and 119 to 110. So combined scores of 248 and 229. The overhead hitting 5 straight for Boston until game 4 against Indiana. Went under. The first 3 games of that series had 225, 246, and 261. Yeah, so I like the over, and I also like the Mavs. Now, I just pointed out how Boston handled them in the regular season, and they've actually swept them the 2 seasons ago as well in the regular season. But I just like how Luka and Kyrie are playing right now. I like how Lively is playing, the rookie, and so here's just some stats on Dallas in the playoffs. So their last 7 games, 6-1 both straight up in ATS. They've won 5 in a row on the road. That was 3 at Minnesota, 2 at OKC. 2 very good home teams this year. Their last 7 as underdogs. They've won outright 6 times, and on the road in the postseason, 7-2, both straight up and against the spread. I like Dallas plus 6.5 and over 215.5.
It's interesting with Lively back healthy. Boston gets Porzingis back. Can you cap and not factor in trust? Like, do you think to yourself, man, who do I trust more? Because I'm not sure you feel good about either team. So what do you think about that? Like, or are you just looking at these numbers and trying to crunch data? Like, where's your trust?
No, I definitely have a non-trust factor for Boston. I mean, like, it didn't happen, so I guess it's irrelevant, but conceivably the Pacers could have been up 3-1 instead got swept. Tatum, I just feel like in some of the big moments, sometimes he just does not come up big. I mean, we saw those 2 game 2s at home to Miami without Jimmy Butler, to the Cavs. And remember now, it was only 2-1 Boston when Donovan Mitchell went out for the series, and Donovan Mitchell was cooking their asses the first 3 games. So, I'm not trying to take away from what, I mean, Boston's got a great team and all, but there is a kind of a non-trust factor, and I think my trust for Dallas has gone up with the way they handled Minnesota so convincingly.
B, is there any play on the overall series that you like, or is that something you kind of want to take game by game?
I think I'm going to take it game by game because I'm on Dallas in this game. I mean, let's say Boston wins outright tonight, preferably by 6 or fewer. Then we're getting a plus 230 or plus 240 price on Dallas for the series, whereas right now, man, I haven't even looked at it in 4 or 5 days. It was like plus 160-ish. Plus 160, 165 range. So if Boston wins tonight, but it's close and Dallas covers, maybe I consider getting on Dallas for the series at a, plus 220 or what. I'm not sure exactly where it would go, but I just a little reluctant to take Dallas for the series at only a plus 160 price going into it.
When so for these conference schedules, when you're looking at win totals, and I know sometimes you have to like tie up a certain amount of finances, how do you decide like kind of how to break down your win total, like your pool, like what it is that you're willing to play?
Yeah,
if
so
you be committed.
Well, the only 2 I've committed to so far are the Ole Miss over, which I think we talked about a few weeks ago, and now I'm letting y'all know I'm going Missouri over 9.5. Which is a small plus 120. And for Ole Miss, for Ole Miss and Missouri, their schedules just work perfect. So first off, I only think Missouri is going to be an underdog twice this year. Right now at DraftKings, they're plus 8.5 at Alabama, and on October 5th, they're plus 4 at Texas A&M. And they get 2 weeks to prepare for Texas A&M, whereas A&M is going to be playing its 6th game in 6 weeks and is going to be coming off a rivalry game against Arkansas the week before. You look at Missouri's schedule, their first 4 games at home, they should be favored by probably at least 17 in all 4 of those, and then they get the 2 weeks to prepare for A&M. But even if they lose at A&M, after that, they've got at UMass. I think they're better than Auburn and will beat them at home. I think they'll lose at Bama, But after Bama, when I said they have 2 of their 3 hardest games, they have 2 weeks to prepare for 2 of their 3 hardest games, and the opponent doesn't. So the second one, besides A&M, is Oklahoma at home. After they, I think, will lose at Bama, they get 2 weeks off to prepare for Oklahoma, whereas Oklahoma will be playing its 5th game in 5 weeks. And that game's at Mizzou. And then their road games in the SEC at South Carolina. It's kind of a retooling this year. South Carolina's win total is only 5.5, and at Mississippi State's complete rebuild, and then Arkansas at home. So, outside of Oklahoma and Auburn, where they're -4 to Oklahoma right now, I would say they'll probably be at least -7 or 8 to Auburn if we were doing it right now. And that's, I mean, they should be favored. I mean, they're not going to be double digits at South Carolina, but I trust Brady Cook. They've got 8 starters back on offense. Are we low on time? Or we still got a second? Luther Bird and Theo Weiss, the 2 best receivers. Now they lost Schrader, the running back, but they did great job in the portal. They got Marcus Carroll, running back from Georgia State. He was 10th in the nation in rushing yards last year. They got Nate Noel from App State, who's got 3,074 career rushing yards, 5.7 yards per carry average for his career. And they did good in the portal. They got an O lineman from Oklahoma who started 5 games as a true freshman and did not give up a sack. They got a 4-star transfer at corner, Toriano Pride from Clemson, to replace Rakestraw. And they did good in the portal. I like this team, and the schedule is beautiful for them and Ole Miss.
That's Brian Edwards, our Vegas Insider Beat. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, thanks, guys. You'll have a great weekend.
Thanks, B.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by one Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on, bud?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Well, hello. Welcome back to the world of the living, man. How was the break?
It was good. It was good. I'm happy to be back. Got a little breather. So, yeah, no complaints.
You just came back to some 4 and 5 stars on campus and a 4-star committing. I mean, no big deal, right?
Yeah, that and like I don't know. There's like I feel like the sports takes like got worse when I was gone. Like, and not because of me, but I flipped my phone on and it's like there's like a lot of like WNBA on WNBA crime going on in my timeline, and I was really confused by the whole thing.
Yeah, well, we're guilty as charged because, man, I kind of had my feathers ruffled too, so I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I probably spent at least 2 segments talking about it. I was more mad at the media than I was the WNBA. Although the WNBA, it would be nice if they would embrace having a superstar. You know what I mean?
Yes. And also, somebody is coaching the Lakers next year, it appears, and that changes by the day.
Yeah.
That's what else I've learned.
I'm not. So I just wish I knew how to take what a good coach means to an NBA team. We tried to ask Anthony Tolliver this morning, and, you know, he kind of broke it down into it kind of matters the most in playoffs than any other time. But I don't know what to think. That'd be like asking me if, you know, Kirby Smart went to go coach the Steelers. I don't know. I mean, is that good? I just
what happened to JJ Redick though? I was like that.
I would really lose my mind over that.
Quickly.
Yeah. So you know what's funny though with this whole coaching thing in the pros, this whole Micah Parsons and Zimmer thing is hilarious, right? Like Parsons says, yeah, you know, I've said 20 words to Zim. You know, I know he's coached a lot of good players, but he's never had a Micah. Can't wait to sit down. Like, it's kind of passive aggressive, right? And Zim's response was, well, we're going to do this my way. And I'm like, is that really how coaches do it in the pros? Is that it just seems I don't know the value of coaching in the professional ranks.
It's probably different sport by like it feels like the NFL is probably a little bit more important, right?
It appears that way.
And maybe I'm wrong, but the NBA always just seemed like it was more about managing egos than anything. And I would guess that Major League Baseball is similar to that as well. You know, like it doesn't necessarily run itself, but it feels like there's a little bit less of the fingerprints on everything, every game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'd push back a little on the NBA just because
he's an NBA honk.
No, I think there's way more scouting during the regular season that goes on. Like, I don't know how much coaching in terms of player development and stuff like that actually happens, but I think there is a ton of scouting, especially other teams' offenses, to try and come up with game plans and things like that. But, you know, if you're a player development coach, which that I think is one of the things that Hurley has been best at, I don't know at the professional level how much time the head coach has for that. There's other people on the staff that do that.
I mean, do you want him to get a bunch of young guys? Or like,
I mean, not if you're LeBron, probably, right?
Well, LeBron's almost done.
Okay, but if you're the Lakers, you're trying to get another one with LeBron, right? Like, that's probably your goal here.
Yeah.
So maybe like that's where Hurley doesn't necessarily, like, if you got a really young team, like Hurley would make a lot of sense in like Oklahoma City, right? Yeah. Bunch of young dudes, develop them, you turn them into something. I mean, his roster at UConn, I think, is older than Oklahoma City's roster, but so I would just push back on the NBA a little bit there. That's all I'll say. But I agree that Major League Baseball managers don't do anything.
Yeah, that's fair. I am like so far out on the NBA. I'll go with your premise. It sounds good to me.
Oh, it's certainly not like the Mariners and A's at the Coliseum or anything.
Well, I'm out on that too. I'm done with that. As are most people.
Well, you got a split so far. Like, are you already fast forwarding to Toronto or what?
Well, they're the A's are a plucky little group. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I haven't really been all in on this season. So there's that. I got my cell T-shirt. That's about as in as I'm getting on the A's.
I think that's a good plan there. Yeah,
Michael Bruntz here for not trying to make it 2 in a row today.
I mean, listen, you're not. I feel like you kind of have to emotionally hedge for yourself a little bit there, where you don't want to, get too involved in somebody like the A's.
Bruntzy, how many questions? Well, you've been gone, so maybe none. But how often do you feel like you have to answer the question, what should Nebraska's baseball program be or expect?
Frequently.
Yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird that I think sometimes basketball is this way too. Like it feels like any time that Nebraska and any program has like a measure of success, it gets viewed through like this football prism, and like where you're kind of hanging on every game. And I think as the season kind of wore on this spring, I felt like those questions came up a lot every time Nebraska dropped a midweek. Like, what do you legitimately expect this program's ceiling or expectation should be? And I don't know that I have a good answer. I have an idea. I don't know. I just think I don't think that you can view Nebraska baseball in the summer of 2024 through the same lens as you did in the summer of 2005. And I think that's hard for some people.
Okay, expound for me. Just because of the landscape of college baseball, the television money, NIL,
moving from the Big 12 to the Big 10,
capturing lightning in a bottle, like what? Help me.
All of it. I mean, I think. I mean, you kind of went down you went down my list. No, but I mean, like, you're in a significantly different conference. I mean, the last time Nebraska was in the College World Series, the Big 12 had 3 teams in the College World Series. Baylor, Nebraska, and Texas were all there that year. And you're in a league that, for better or for worse, you're kind of who is in your backyard, right? Like you're not necessarily the company that you keep, but you're kind of in that neighborhood. And I think the game to me has felt like it's moved much more, to an SEC dominated landscape than it has been in the past. I mean, I'm not saying that you lessen the expectations, and you should by all means be able to line up and beat Summit League teams on Wednesdays. But I just think it's a much more nuanced conversation about kind of what the expectation is. And I think too, the university kind of needs to figure out how all in they're going to be on it from an administrative point of view, because I think that's an important piece of it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a limit somewhat to, the fact that Nebraska was in the conversation to host a regional as late as they were this year. I think that's a good step. I mean, I think, Nebraska kind of needs to make that next step as a program where, regional berths become more of a regularity than they have been. But it's a tough fight. I mean, it's just so much is stacked against Northern teams right now in college baseball, the way things are.
Are you speaking more to like maybe not necessarily Gilmore's rant from Coastal, but the ability to bring in the players that you need to win? Because when you say how all in you want administration to be, I'm assuming it's not just upgrades at Haymarket, right?
Well, I mean, that's a big piece of it. I mean, when was the last time you guys saw Nebraska baseball's clubhouse in a recruiting video?
Yeah.
Ever? I mean, it's
good point.
Like there's fixes that can be made over there that are long overdue, and need to be made. And I think Troy Dannon has a good eye for that kind of stuff, just based on kind of what I've been hearing. But
one more year, liquor sales will help too.
A full year, they got about $12,000 a game. That's not nothing.
No,
so,
I'm being serious.
Yeah, and I honestly, based on the lines that they had up by the press box, I was a little surprised it was only 12,000. Like I felt like Nebraska fans were trying to do their part. So yeah, I mean that's part of it. The NIL piece of it is important too. I mean, it's just tough because it's not you're not going to see the same return on it in baseball as you would in football and basketball. And Nebraska and teams in the North are up against teams with much bigger war chests for those impact transfers. So that's kind of all part of it.
So, Bruntz, let's say Nebraska does control some of the things they can control, whether it's updating Haymarket, getting some better facilities, whatever the case is, right? Do you think they can get to a place, given the challenges that you laid out, where hosting a regional is maybe not the every year expectation, but that's more of a norm? I think DB and I said earlier this week, like, okay, if you're in a regional 7 or 8 out of every 10 years, I think that's a reasonable goal. And you would want to be hosting what, like half of those? Is that attainable?
Based on recent history, that would be a bit of a stretch.
Wow.
You look at the teams that host, you got to really thread the needle pretty well if you're a Northern team. I mean, you either got to win a lot of games or you got to schedule really hard and win those games. And I think that was the one thing that Nebraska, to its credit, did this year, was they scheduled the right teams early on and they won those games. And that's something that for 15 years this program's really struggled to do. So I don't know. I mean, it feels like the hosting conversation, like, yes, you can take care of your own business, but there's a lot of other factors that kind of fall into that too. And I would probably lean towards more of the expectation being how many times are you getting to the tournament, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's kind of where
if you're hosting, because it feels like there's a lot that's out of your hands. And too, I guess maybe it plays to Nebraska's favor and to Northern schools a little bit. But I mean, if they're not just going to go straight RPI on deciding that, maybe that helps a little bit more than before, where it was like you basically had to be in the top 20 RPI wise to even have to be in that conversation.
Who do you think has the toughest decision on kind of their clash, or should they stay or should they go moment based on how the season finished on Nebraska's roster?
In terms of pro prospects and things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in my mind, I would not expect Josh Caron back. I mean, I feel like he made himself a lot of money down the stretch.
And you get the sense like that's who he's really capable of being, right? Because that's what it's got to boil down to.
The thing that he had not done during his time at Nebraska was he had not kind of held those numbers through a whole season.
Yeah.
And from where he was last year, not only as a hitter, but I mean defensively, he improved significantly from what he had been. So I mean, I think he's probably gone. I'm trying to think in my head, who else probably falls in that category too. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I think Nebraska is going to have to get pretty active in the portal with replacing some key roles. So, I without having a list in front of me, I'm probably going to leave somebody off. But I mean, I would expect a guy like Caron, certainly would probably be moving on.
Well, they may not have to look too far. There's a bunch of guys looking for new places to play up in Omaha. So
there are.
That's incredible. That is incredible what's happened locally.
Yeah, no, it's for better or for worse, Nebraska has relationships with a lot of those guys. So I mean, you at least can probably get the phone call answered a little bit quickly. So, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you don't kind of get the numbers going into the portal publicized that like you do in basketball or football, but man, like you got like 10 guys go in, like what do you, that's it's a 30-year roster right there. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Creighton handles that, because I don't recall a situation like that too often.
You know what's even more interesting is that's a team that just went out and did, I won't say outside of the weekends, but like just did work. Like they own Nebraska, and this was going on internally. Like it's just, I mean, baseball is already a hard enough sport to not be bringing any of that stuff to the table. I mean, maybe that was part of the problem
on the weekends. Yeah.
Yeah. Spending more time with each other, right?
Yeah.
No,
no, it's easier on a one-off than it is on a road trip for sure.
You know,
to deal with each other if you don't like them that much.
Your hitting coach was there for 7 years, and he takes a job going to Minnesota. And, I mean, thank God that news broke yesterday, because my professional wisdom, Bruntz, I was like, oh yeah, without Gandasi there anymore, and they're like, wait, that's not official. Sorry. But isn't that weird? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's just such an odd situation with like how it's being handled, and you know the coaching aspect of it and the timing of everything. Like I get it. Like you probably want to be somewhere that's stable and you know what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, Creighton's issue was not the talent on the roster. I mean, they've got guys on that staff that are going to be coveted by big schools.
Yeah, one in particular.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the bizarro Nebraska, right? They took care of everybody in the midweeks, and weren't able to get it done on the weekend.
Bruntz, as a guy that I think is really interesting is Gabe Swanson, and I think he is he going to have a decision to make after what we saw here in the last few weeks, or like how do you weigh what happened over the course of the season versus kind of what you see that top end the last few weeks or month or so?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, because which is the real him, right? Because he did it for a year last year, put it together for a couple weeks this year. Total package wise, I mean that he can definitely hit. That's for sure. He's got the power, but is he a good enough defender to kind of rise in that conversation? I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, the last couple of weeks that he had, I mean, for the as lousy as his regular season was and everything he put up with in terms of, having to live up to expectations last year and things like that. I mean, I was really happy to see it kind of played out for him. I would be a little bit surprised if there's a decision there to make. Because, I guess in my mind, you maybe want to see, if you're a professional team, you want to see if that's, which is which.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he's a guy you take a late flyer on because obviously the power numbers are there, but I don't know. He's the one guy that I don't really have a good handle on in terms of how he's viewed. I haven't really seen him pop up in a lot of lists and things like that. I also haven't really been looking based, off the last couple weeks of the season. But can you guys remember a heater like that any Nebraska athlete's been on?
No. I'm serious. I thought Casey.
Yeah,
that's the first one I thought.
Like
that,
the end of last year.
Yep, that was really the only stretch I could think of where it's like if you're just penciling a guy in for a home run, like you're penciling a guy in to hit 5 threes. That was this. I was trying to think. I even went multiple sports.
Yeah, I can't come up with one.
So how about some of the balls that he was hitting? Like that was the thing that was getting me.
Yeah, it's not like he was getting meatballs.
It's like he
down
did
on his shins.
Yeah. To leave the yard.
Yeah, he was doing some Vlad Guerrero stuff out there.
Like guys don't even hit those balls down and in like that.
They probably shouldn't even swing at him, to be honest.
I was like, what is like that thing had to just
Funny though, like if you think back to the spring, like I mean, he was hitting like $150 for most of the year, and every time that he would get a hit, and he would be in the lineup the next game. Like the coaching staff, I think, kind of did everything they possibly could to give him a chance to get going.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was even the game they went down to Kansas and lost. It was like the 11-7 game or whatever. Like he had a single in that game that looked pretty good, and I was like, okay, that's going to be enough to keep him in the lineup for the whole weekend. Because I mean, that's the potential he has, but it just you could never get that wick to light. So it finally happened, but I can't recall any kind of run like that, just out of nowhere, seemingly.
Bruntz, couple minutes left here with you. Want to switch over to football recruiting for a second. Obviously, the commitment of Jamarion Parker was the big news yesterday. Just general thoughts on Parker, and if you think this is the start of another big June for Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, if you've sat and kind of watched his film, you get it. I mean, you see it, and to me, he was a guy that feels like he has a really big senior year ahead of him. Like the numbers were already good, but I feel like he's the kind of guy that has the potential to really blow up, even more than he already did. I mean, he had, a number of big offers, but he has that kind of big play potential. And I think for Nebraska, the running back spot has kind of cried out for a player like that for a while. They've had guys that, you could kind of ascribe those types of things, types of characteristics to, but I mean, he really has it. And I think you have to give Nebraska credit for the way that they recruited him. I mean, they made him a priority from the jump. And I mean, it feels like for the past decade, we've been discussing how Nebraska can possibly get back into St. Louis in a major way. And that was a big win. I mean, I think you have to give a lot of credit to EJ Barthel. You have to give a lot of credit to Keith Williams. I mean, I think he's doing a lot
I
of
agree
work,
with you.
a lot of work behind the scenes. And I've talked to former Nebraska players who are involved in high school football in St. Louis, and they talk to Keith Williams a lot.
Yep.
And he's really dialed in down there and in the state of Missouri. And that's an area that Nebraska has spent a lot of hours and a lot of manpower trying to, spread the flag there. So this is a big win and one that was a long time coming, because I think really made it a point to make Missouri a priority and to show that they're going to continue to recruit there hard.
The string that those guys are on, like kind of like a linebacking core with Callahan and Genta and Avery Gossett and Keith Williams, like it's been so refreshing to have that singular purpose. It's almost silly.
Yeah, I mean they're very organized. They've got a really good plan, and it's. I mean, you know this, Damon. It's not ever just one coach that's recruiting a kid, it's all hands on deck, and you know they're gonna if they've got a chance at a kid, they're gonna take their best shot. And I think with Parker, it was just the relationship piece of it was so big. And I, like I said, I mean, it was a big recruiting win, and I think it, to your point, kind of flexed a little bit the work they're doing over there right now.
That's Michael Bruntz. We'll talk to you again next week, Bruntsy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we're brought to you by Durkin Designs. If you've got some things in your backyard, front yard, side yard, whatever kind of outside you got going on at your house that need attention, you got to give Durkin Designs a call. It's 402-779-4444. They got paver patios, retaining walls, light features, water features, fire, whatever you can think of. I know you need a little work done in your backyard as well.
I do. You know what you know what he probably can't stop from happening?
Your dog's barking at the dogs next door?
Switek just rolling over the competition.
No, he certainly can't do that.
It's
But
a lot like water.
if you want a tennis court in your backyard, maybe you can do that too. I don't know. I haven't asked him.
I'm sure
yet.
he can.
He'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
You know, the red clay wouldn't do well in Nebraska, but he can make it work, I bet.
So what's the keep on that?
The red clay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the humidity is not high enough year round here to keep the moisture in the clay you need
You
to.
just happen to know this what?
I was talking to a guy.
You can't formulate a constructive argument on a radio show about sports, but can go in depth about red clay.
Well, you know who can go in depth on your backyard? That's Durkin Designs. 402-779-4444 for all of your outside design.
I wouldn't
needs.
be surprised though that they would talk about something like that during the broadcast.
Yeah. Well, it's not the first time that this has been played on clay. So maybe like originally, like, you know, probably 30, 35 years ago, they probably talk about red clay, but I think people are over the surface now.
Yeah, well, it's the reason you don't see a ton of red clay in the United States is just because the climate for it is more conducive to places like Spain and France than it is for the U.S. They've got some down in like Florida because you get more of the humidity down there. But
so for as good as TK was with the whole finches and the birds thing,
yeah,
are we reading this blasphemy on our YouTube stream?
Whoa,
because
what happened?
I mean,
what happened?
I hope he's joking, but he says I'm going to go out on a limb because we were talking about Zimmerman and guys like that, saying he's going to do it his way. And Zim was kind of stubborn in Minnesota, obviously, right?
Yep.
And then people made excuses because he was going from coordinator to head coach. He's joking, though, when he's talking about Harrison Smith, Hunter, DeMarcus Ware. I mean, maybe DeMarcus Ware, but
that's the only one that's close.
But they're not better than Micah Parsons.
No, Micah Parsons is very good.
Like,
very, very good.
Yeah, he can't be serious.
TK does have some hot takes every once in a while. Yeah, and unlike me, they're not well thought out and well argued. And
you mean unlike you?
No, yeah, unlike because he doesn't think he's not as convincing as I am. He's not, he's gonna be a lawyer. He'll figure it out. He's still in school. It's all right.
He's not serious though. It just was a weird retort from Zimmer to say that after.
I think he is being serious. I don't know.
Does he not know where he is? He's in Dallas. Your quarterback doesn't have a contract. CeeDee Lamb won't come to practice. Micah Parsons is like the epitome of snark. And you're gonna do this your way?
Yeah, it seems like the league and kind of the personalities of players maybe has passed old Zim by a little bit. You know what I mean?
Do this my way.
Some of these old school guys, it's like, hey, that doesn't really work anymore. Kind of gotta, like these guys are running the players are running the league, the team now. to a certain extent.
With what organizations?
Dallas.
I don't know. Do they?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the coaches. It's either the players or Jerry.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say the player. I don't know.
I think they have more influence than like McCarthy does.
I don't know.
Yeah, but did you also see that Gudengoose said that he wanted to get Love's deal done before camp?
Yeah.
So Love is about to get paid on about a what percentage window of quality games played?
Off the top of my head,
would you say 8?
I was going to say 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, they're going to lock up a lot of money.
That's half a season.
So
you know who's had a good half a season? A lot of people.
Wait, is that the way that you would do it though? If you wanted to be a quarterback in this league, if you're going to get a second contract, because there's been little to no
100%.
pressure. He waited 3.5 years.
100%. That's, I mean, like it's hard to draw it up that way, right? But if you end up in that situation,
play a good stretch, go 500.
Oh, hell yeah, I would do that. Are you kidding me? That's the way to go.
I'm not misremembering, right? Like
I'm looking it up right now. He had a nice stretch, but he started slow. He wasn't great right out the bat. Started slow, ends up with good numbers: 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks there on 64% completion, which is only okay in the league now. I'm
just going by their record.
Yeah, I'm bringing up game log because I want to be accurate here.
And he's going to get paid. With almost no pressure.
With almost no pressure and really little track record. I mean, very little track record. Okay, so he goes, let's see, he didn't crack 300 yards until week 10. He only did it twice the whole year, just for what that's worth. Let's see what we're doing touchdown-wise here.
You know, maybe it was a Dallas thing because he started with 272 against Dallas. That was actually in the postseason.
No,
but
I'm looking at maybe Minnesota or Rams. The Rams in like week 8.
Yeah,
they win.
He cooked Tampa pretty good.
They win 4 out of 5 there, lose 2, and then win the last 3. He's okay. He's pretty good.
I'm trying to figure out if I think you have a point to the players run. I don't think the players run the NFL.
I think they have more influence now than they ever did.
Who would be I don't even get the sense that Mahomes runs the Chiefs. I get the sense Andy Reid does.
That's kind of unique because of Andy Reid. If Mahomes was anywhere else, he would run that team.
Okay, so give me a guy. Give me a guy in the league you think. I think the NFL is pretty good in that regard. The preaching of the shield being the greatest thing in that sport is pretty. I've already got you stressing. So,
did Aaron run the Packers when he was there?
Maybe a little bit, but then they shipped him out.
You
might be right. I mean,
it doesn't seem like the players run the league.
I don't know if they run the league. I don't.
You have one of the worst collective bargaining agreements.
That's true
in professional sports.
So run the league was probably overstatement. I think I don't know that you can. And maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know that you can coach them the same way you used to. But I think that's pretty common across leagues where you're just like the hard-nosed, like my way or the highway guy. Like if it comes down between Zimmer and Parsons, Dallas is choosing Parsons.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean. Like not head coaches, but if you're talking about like a hard-nosed old school guy versus your star player, the star player is going to win that argument.
I do understand that.
That's what I mean. But you're right. They don't run the league.
Yeah,
they don't run the league.
They don't get out of pocket though.
But in a situation where it's like, hey, we've got a clash here, and it's either my player, especially a high leverage,
because we have seen the association get coaches fired.
Yes, 100%. And maybe I'm conflating too much there from being an NBA guy.
I'm still shook that he put Harrison Smith and
Parsons is better than those guys. Parsons is unbelievable.
Yeah, I gotta
and I don't need anybody to remind me that the 49ers could have drafted Parsons instead of Trey Lance.
No, he's serious. He doubled down.
I don't.
Micah Parsons can't play dead against the run.
I don't need that right now in my life.
He's.
You know who would take Micah Parsons?
He's kidding me. See, that thing against the run is like that's like me saying to Sean Deveny or to Rashad Phillips, Anthony Edwards has got to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what those guys say to me? That's not
his job.
It's not what he does.
That's not his job. You know what his job is? To break backboards off on people's heads.
How about them
it's
apples?
like I think Parsons' job is to be disruptive and to get after the quarterback.
And he's better at it than everybody else in the league, pretty much.
And I wonder what people used to say about Chris Jones. I don't TK's not being serious.
I mean,
he's not being serious. No.
You can be serious without being serious. You know what I mean?
But Harrison Smith, though,
that one's a little.
I mean, I'm not even sure if that's the guy I would have started with for guys that Zim has coached. I mean, I get it because he's nice.
Yeah,
but
Parsons is a wrecker.
Yeah, he's incredible.
That's not. They don't make a lot like Micah Parsons.
He said Parsons going third person though might be one of the funniest things I heard all week.
Man,
and I've heard a lot of funny things on national media.
You want to talk about Caden Clark some more?
But he's never had a Micah.
You have any?
What?
You ever had any? You have any comments on Stephen A. and Monica McNutt? Or are you good?
You
good?
I'm past him.
All right.
I just shake my head.
Coming up next, we're going to preview the NBA Finals with Sean Deveny of Heavy.com. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage as we effort Sean Deveny of Heavy.com to preview the NBA Finals. I'm curious because we heard Brian Edwards earlier. He's on Dallas tonight on plus 6.5. Says he thinks he likes Dallas for the series, but he's kind of hold off and see what happens tonight to figure out if he wants to make a series play or not.
Dallas, so he didn't call for an outright win, but he did like him ATS. But how much money would he be losing on a series shift price if he waited till if Dallas won game one?
Oh, he's gonna lose a lot of money.
Okay,
yeah, I would guess.
I would too,
because I think he said it was plus 160 right now. He's anticipating that if Dallas loses tonight, it would go to plus 230, somewhere in that range, which I understand getting the extra value there. I wonder how strongly the favorite holds after an 0-1 start if you're Boston, but I have to imagine you're paying pretty close to even, if not minus money.
Yeah, right now I'm seeing the Mavs plus 180.
Okay,
minus 220.
So it's gone up a little bit
for the Celtics.
Does home court advantage for the Celtics minus out their tendency to? Does it even out the tendency for them to lose it in the big games? This price, Sean, here, I'm going to get it.
They didn't play very well against Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, if Halliburton stays healthy, that's a different series probably. I think Boston probably still makes it through.
Yeah.
Because I think they were just better. But it's not like they played great, especially the first few games against Indiana.
Yeah.
We've got Sean Deveny now joining us from Heavy.com. He's NBA insider and content editor. Sean, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. It seems like these teams have been off forever, but that will happen the way the previous series went. Who's closer to potentially being a victim of rest versus rust between the two teams?
Probably the Celtics, just because they've had so much time off. But when you also think about, trying to work in other players and it's going to be a little more complicated for them. We've also seen the Celtics, I think, lay some eggs at home early on in the past playoff series. So I think that they're probably in a worse position in terms of that. The Mavericks come in, not just having won the Western Conference Finals, but they played a lot of competitive games against Minnesota. They've had some tough series on the way, whereas the Celtics have had sort of a red carpet all the way to the NBA Finals. So I think if anybody's in a little bit of a danger zone with that, it's probably much more the Celtics than it is the Mavericks.
I asked Ravi on Tuesday, I said, would you, with Porzingis potentially, healthy, do you go with what won you 64 or what won you 12? And to know that they're better by about 8 percentage points defensively with rim protection, it's a fairly easy answer. You put him back in the starting lineup tonight?
Yeah, I think that's fairly easy. It's obviously something where you're going to watch him. You got to make sure he's up to speed, and you're fortunate that you've got a pretty good guy behind him in Al Horford. And really from the beginning, look, the Celtics' objective back in October was let's get to June with at least one healthy center. You've got Porzingis who's hurt all the time, and Al 37. If they could come through with one of those guys at this point in the year, I think they would have been happy. Now they've got both of them. Obviously, there's an asterisk there. But yeah, I think with Porzingis, his ability to defend in the pick and roll, which is what Dallas does so well, and his size. Don't forget, Dallas really loves to throw those lobs. You see so many lobs from Lulla to Derek Lively and to Gafford that you really want to have a guy like Porzingis in there who can intercept those or make you think twice before you even throw them. So I think that, having Porzingis in there is going to be a pretty good bonus for the Celtics.
Sean, you mentioned Lulla there, and part of the reason those lobs are so effective is because it's just so hard to defend him and stay in front of him in the first place. I think a lot of people thought that Minnesota might have the equation the way they defended against Denver. That obviously wasn't the case. What do you think the formula is for Boston to try and contain Lulla?
Yeah, I think they'll send a couple of different looks. My guess is that you'll see Drew Holiday sort of try to lock in on Kyrie Irving and keep that as a one-on-one matchup as much as possible. But this team switches a lot, and they're very comfortable switching. They've got a bunch of guys who can defend different positions. Derek White, obviously Jaylen Brown can defend 3-4 positions. Jason Tatum can defend 4 positions. So they're okay with switching. I think what you're going to wind up seeing is Drew Holiday trying to guard Kyrie Irving as much himself, and then the Celtics sending different looks at Lulla to give him some different challenges and to react to what he's doing. If he's trying to go down into the post and use his size a little bit, then you'll see Tatum on him a little bit more. If he's trying to work from the perimeter, you'll see Jaylen Brown and Derek White on him a little bit more. But I think sending a bunch of different bodies is going to be the answer for Lulla. And really, like I say, part of the key of that is that the Celtics have such a lockdown defender that they can put on Kyrie Irving. That's something most teams do not have.
So this is interesting, Sean, because as I'm kind of looking at the role players, I know I want P.J. Washington's offense, and I think Gafford has to give them obviously some presence with Lively. But then I look at, gosh, if I was going to take a long shot on an MVP, it would be Drew Holiday, but I know it may not be points. So between he and Derek White and their defensive prowess, how visible will we be able to see their impact, in your opinion, if they're not scoring the basketball?
Yeah, I think with Drew Holiday, it can be obvious. He had a play that essentially won. I think it was game 4, game 5 against Indiana. Where he makes a play and forces a turnover at the end of that game and part of the Celtics comeback. That's the kind of stuff he does. And he's sort of the obvious defender. Like, he really can do a lot of different things and really make you say, whoa, did you see that play? So much of defense is invisible. His plays tend to be a little more visible. So, that would certainly stand out. As an MVP candidate for the series, obviously he'd be a pretty good long shot. But you think back to Andre Iguodala winning it for the Warriors in 2015 for the defense that he played on LeBron. You can certainly imagine Drew Holiday filling that kind of role. And, Holiday, don't forget, he can score, too. I mean, if they need him to go for 20, 25 points, he can do it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a game or two where he does that and at least puts himself in the conversation for that MVP award, assuming the Celtics win the thing, of course.
So if you're going to pick the kind of the off one for each team? Is it kind of Derek White and PJ Washington, or give me somebody else for Dallas that you think at some point is going to have some scoring punch?
Yeah, I mean, Washington is definitely the guy. I mean, when he hasn't shot the ball that well, but he's had a knack for shooting at the right moments. In the clutch situations, they find him for those corner threes. Now the other guy is Derek Jones Jr., who again, defensive guy, not a big scorer by any stretch, but he can knock down those corner threes. Now, look at the numbers. The Celtics are the best team in the league at stopping corner threes. That is the bread and butter, because what the Mavericks want to do is get you in pick and roll, and then create some space and find those guys as sort of outlets for those corner threes. If the Celtics can take those away, then the Celtics are going to win this thing easily. But if Dallas can find ways to get those shots and primary guys, if those guys are humming, then the Celtics could have some trouble with their defense. But so if it's not going to be PJ Washington, then it's Derek Jones Jr. for sure.
We've got just about a minute left here with you, Sean. I wanted to make sure I asked you about the Dan Hurley situation developing between him and the Lakers. What were your initial thoughts when you heard that was the guy that they were targeting in terms of making their new head coach?
Yeah, I mean, what a well-kept secret. I mean, for them to be having chatted with Dan Hurley apparently quite frequently, trying to get him to leave Connecticut and take this job, and for it to not have leaked out at all until now, that's pretty impressive in this day and age. But just with the basketball mind that he is, and the respect that he has around the game. And obviously the Lakers want to think beyond LeBron and Anthony Davis as well, and think about, getting young players and developing them. That's his forte, but still obviously a great basketball mind as well. So it'll take a pretty significant package to get him to leave Connecticut. But I also think that, with all the new NIL stuff and all the new stuff that's coming down the pike, so many of these coaches want out. And if you can get into a stable situation in the NBA, if you're Dan Hurley, I think you jump at it. And I think pretty good chance that this comes through.
That's Sean Deveny from Heavy.com. Sean, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, DB, real quick. Finals prediction. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Mavs in a minor upset.
How many games?
It's going to go 7.
I was going Mavs in 6.
Okay, so you're a Mavs guy too.
Well, in order for my narrative to come true about Jason Tatum, I got to root for the Mavs. So that's important for me.
So for those of you listening, it's Boston in 5.
That's DBM Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week on Hurrdat Sports Radio.